Today's show brought to you by redcon1.com. That's right. Click the link at the bottom of the podcast app in which you are listening to this on. Check them out. Use promo code T20 Quartermiss. That's right. redcon1.com.
There's nothing special about being American. None of you can define for me what an American is.
I am the nation. I was born on July 4th, 1776, and the Declaration of Independence is my birth certificate. The bloodlines of the world run in my veins because I offered freedom to the oppressed. I am many things and many people. I am the nation. I'm 200 million living souls and the ghost of millions who have lived and died for me. I'm Nathan Hale and Paul Revere. I stood at Lexington and fired the shot heard round the world. I'm Washington, Jefferson, Patrick Henry. I'm John Paul Jones, the Green Mountain Boys, and Davy Crockett. I'm Lee.
Coming to you from the DTOM Studios in the free state of Florida, sponsored by Maker's Mark Bourbon, this is Don't Tread on Merica. How's everybody doing out there today? It is Sunday, March 15th, 2026. We're back. Still on vacation, though, but I'm back. Anyway, guys, couple things. Go visit the DTOM Store. Link is at the bottom of the podcast app in which you're listening to this on. Make sure you use promo code DTOM, get you 10% off, or you'll get free shipping, depending on where you live. Guys, don't worry, I'm not in it for the money. I just want you to buy some gear. I want you to spread the word. Proceeds go to Tunnels to Towers. Just buy some shit. Donate to a charity. Also, make sure that you guys are following the show on social media. Don't Tread on America on Facebook, Instagram, True Social, and the Ticker Talker. And, of course, the website is DontTreadonMerica.com. I love hearing your guys' thoughts, your feedback, anything you have to say. If you would be so kind to drop me a message on the Twitter X machine at DTOM Podcast 1776. And if you're not on social media, you know what? That's fine. You can email the show. You hit me up, DonQ at DontTreadonMerica.com. I will get those messages. I will respond. We will have a conversation. If you are writing a book or doing a movie or whatever and you want to be on the show, email me, talk to me. We can do this. But right now, what we're going to do is we're going to crank it up with a little bit of Damn Yankees, like we always do about this time. Let's go! All right. Damn Yankees, don't tread on me. Courtesy of one Ted, Theodore Nugent. I'm going to ride it out for a minute here, and then we'll have a discussion about the show we're going to have today. It's a good show. Something no one's talking about, but I have some ideas of what our future may be in store for. Hopefully, it's just a theory. But we'll find out in just a minute. Here we go. What is going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Don't Tread on America. Of course, I am your host, Don Q, coming to you from the heart of freedom-loving territories around the world. Folks, strap in because today's episode is going to be a marathon dive into one of the most explosive topics in modern history. We're talking about some raw truth about the project for the new American century, PNAC for short, and how this neoconservative blueprint might just be the blueprint for America's downfall. We'll unpack the history, the key players, the wild conspiracy theories swirling around 9/11 and the Iraq War, and tie it all to today's geopolitical mess. Is neoconservatism the cancer eating away at our empire? You decide. Grab your coffee, your whiskey, your beer, whatever. I'm drinking water. This episode, 1776, PNAC's Hidden Agenda, Neocons, 9/11 plots, and the fall of the American Empire. We'll get to it in just a minute. All right, so let's set the stage. The birth of PNAC, Project for Global Destruction, or Global Domination. All right, Patriots. So let's start at the beginning. Back in 1997, when I was a wee lad of 24, right after the Cold War wrapped up and America was sitting pretty as the world's sole superpower, a group of heavy hitters founded PNAC. We're talking William Kristol, Robert Keegan, and a bunch of neocons who weren't satisfied with just winning the big one against the Soviets. No, they wanted more. A new American century where the U.S. calls all the shots globally. PNAC was a think tank pushing for massive military spending, regime changes, and spreading quote-unquote democracy by force if needed. Their statement of principles, signed by folks like Dick Cheney, Donald Rumsfeld, Paul Wolfowitz, and Jeb Bush, screamed Reagan-era vibes, military strength, moral clarity, and rejecting isolationism. They argued America had to stay dominant to keep the world safe for us and everyone else. But here's where it gets juicy. In 2000, they dropped rebuilding America's defense and reported outlining a total military overhaul, space defenses, cyber stuff, and taking out Saddam Hussein in Iraq. The kicker, they said this transformation would be slow, absent from catastrophic or catalyzing events like a new Pearl Harbor. Fast forward to 9/11, and boom, that Pearl Harbor moment arrives. Coincidence? Well, we'll dig into that later. These guys weren't just theorizing. Many PNAC alum landed in George W. Bush's administration, shaping the post-9/11 world. Cheney as VP, Rumsfeld at defense, and Wolfowitz as his deputy. They turned PNAC dreams into policy, like the Iraqi invasion. But was this about security or empire building? Critics say it was straight up neoconservative overreach, aiming for a benevolent global hegemony. Think about it. PNAC dissolved in 2006 after the Iraq mess started unraveling, but their ideas lingered. Successors like the Foreign Policy Initiative popped up, keeping the flame alive. This wasn't just policy, it was a vision of America as the world's cop, judge, and jury. But at what cost? We'll explore that here in just a second. Neoconservatism isn't your grandpa's conservatism. It started with folks like Irvin Kristol ditching liberalism in the 60s over failed socialist experiments. But by the 90s, it morphed into this aggressive foreign policy beast. The core belief is that America's exceptional, so we've got to spread democracy, even if it means boots on the grounds. Key players, Wolfowitz, Pearl, Abrams, these guys were PNAC's brain trust. They pushed regime change in Iraq way before 9/11, seeing Saddam as a roadblock to Middle East dominance. Ties to Israel? Heavy, many neocons viewed U.S. power as a shield for allies like Israel, leading to theories of dual loyalties. But here's the empire collapse angle. Critics like Francis Fukuyama, a foreign neocon, bailed in 2006, calling it hubris, overestimating U.S. might for nation building. That's what tanked Iraq. Trillions spent, lives lost, credibility shredded. Neocons inflated threat, like Iraq's WMDs, to justify war, echoing Cold War tactics but in a unipolar world. The results? A shift to multipolarity, with China and Russia rising as we bog down. Cheney was once stated that we must remove Saddam for our security. We've talked about how W. Bush, back in 2002, you know, the old clip, we got to fight him over there so we don't have to fight him over here. Those sayings, Cheney pushing the PNAC lines. Now, this was prior, obviously the Bush thing was when he was president, but Cheney said that in 98, prior to even being Bush's vice president. It's empire building disguised as defense. So, before we get any further, guys, let's take a quick break, take an out break. You know what we have to do, so just hang tight 1 second. So, you know what keeps me fired up during these long rants? Anyone? You in the back? Bueller? Alp nicotine pouches. Clean, discreet, no smoke, no mess. Perfect for patriots on the go. Go to outpouch.com/DTOM. That'll get you 20% off your first order. Go to outpouch.com/DTOM. Don't tread on your buzz. Get out today, guys. We'll be right back in just a moment. All right, guys. This is where it gets wild. PNAC's new Pearl Harbor line was fuel for 9/11 conspiracies. Theories claim neocons orchestrated or allowed the attacks to justify wars. Matt Taibbi calls it out of context, but critics like David Ray Giffen says it's motive. So, 9/11 Theories page on Wikipedia says PNAC's report is cited as Pax Americana's blueprint, with Wolfowitz drafting plans for hegemony. and Jeremy Corbyn's articles blaming PNAC for exploiting 9/11. He called it an opportunity for Middle East dominance, with anti-Semitic undertones in some circles. I'm going to play this clip here. This is from David Icke on conspiracy theories. Now, if you know who this gentleman is, you'll understand, but this is interesting.
To mislead the public.
What other conspiracy should we worry about?
Well, what we're looking at all the time are conspiracy after conspiracy coming to light, while the idea of conspiracy and the very word conspiracy is demonized. For instance, we have a situation with this Chilcot inquiry where we're going to see, indeed the information has already come out, that the Prime Minister of the time, Tony Blair and George Bush and the administrations, lied to us to justify an invasion of Iraq. And that is a conspiracy that has cost the lives of staggering numbers of people and created an ongoing catastrophe that's still going on. And let's not forget this. The very same people, not just the same agencies, the same people that told us there were weapons of mass destruction in Iraq when they knew they weren't, those very same people gave us the official story of 9/11. And what the mainstream media is doing...
Was 9/11 a conspiracy?
Of course it was.
Who was behind it?
Well, what was behind it was...
No, who was behind it?
Well, again, in the time we've got here, it's very difficult. But there is a network that works through government agencies, through organizations like the CIA, etc., to push an agenda on the world which is unfolding by the day. My books in the 1990s laid out what this agenda was, and those books are now being read on the television news in changes in society and laws coming in.
Okay.
Now watch, the thing is, I'm going to pause it here real quick. Watch the flip of how the interviewer tries to make him sound like he's crazy.
Here's the point. The mainstream media has accepted that those same characters lied about Iraq, but will not question in any way the same people's version of 9/11. They're journalists. It's their job.
But
here's the swerve.
Do you still think the royal family were shape-shifting lizards?
Yes, I do.
You do?
Yes.
And you also want us to believe 9/11 is a conspiracy?
Yes, but the
doesn't that rather undermine... I mean,
well, no,
I can see the point that you might have some question 9/11, but if you also think that Buckingham Palace is inhabited by lizards, it kind of undermines
but it's not that simple. There's a whole big backstory before you get to what I'm saying. If you deliver it in one line, the world's run by reptiles, you meet it on one level. Oh, that's crazy! Immediate reflex action. But when you see the backstory and the evidence to support this, ancient and modern, you see that one line, throwaway line, in a completely different context.
All right, let me bring in that. Have you ever believed?
So I'm going to go ahead and stop that there. That's what happens is when conspiracy theorists are talking, when we're saying stuff. Now, as far as the lizard shaping reptile, whatever, that's a story for another day. The whole point of that interviewer doing that was to diminish what Icke was saying about 9/11 and Iraq and all that. He has valid points, in my opinion, on that whole situation. The Desert Storm was back in 1990, okay? And the point of that was Iraq invaded Kuwait. If we felt the way we felt 10 years later, why didn't we take Saddam out back then? If he was a problem, which he probably was, maybe he wasn't. There's a whole nother story about Saddam Hussein, Muammar Gaddafi, and so on and so forth. But it boils up to the front that basically the same thing is happening today. We've just picked a new country and a new leader to go after. And you almost have to ask the question, what's going to be the new 9/11? Or was it already happened? Was that October 7th? Ike's been saying this for years. Then Iraq lies about WMDs. Neocons like Pearl pushed fabricated intel. Articles from Mondowise, I'm not sure who that is. Biden let neocons steamroll Congress for war. And then you have broader plots, ties to Zionism, the New World Order. Kevin McDonald and Gilad Atzmon link PNAC, mostly Jewish neocons, to anti-Semitic theories. Let me see what this is here. So you have dozens of articles and speeches by Jeremy Corbyn promoting 9/11 conspiracy theories with anti-Semitic themes. So essentially, I'm not going to read all these different articles. I can read titles. All part of the plan. Why there's no separating the wars in Afghanistan or Iraq. Now these are from 20 years ago, but you have a situation that and you see this today. That was 20 years ago. You see this today. Anytime you question the motives of Israel or U.S. helping Israel, you are labeled what? Anti-Semitic. When we've talked about this time and time again, anti-Semitism is the hatred, I guess is the best word to use, of Jews, period. If you disagree or have a problem with the Israeli government or Benjamin Netanyahu or all the above, that doesn't make you anti-Semitic. It makes you question what the hell is going on. And furthermore, if we question what the U.S. government's involvement is in all this, or question Donald Trump's role or the Department of War, whatever, role in all this stuff, that doesn't make you anti-Semitic. It makes you question why in the fuck the United States, that is what, $39 trillion in debt, is spending billions upon billions of hundreds of billions of dollars to not even defend another country. You're on the offensive. Iran, by all accounts, hadn't fired the first shot. It was, they might. This is something that started almost 30 years ago. And we're still doing this today. Claiming Mossad executed 9/11 for regime change. Now, you could read that and say, are you trying to say regime change in America? No. The point to these catastrophic events is to entice America into war. Why? Because everyone in the world knows America has the strongest, most technically sound military in the world. Are we perfect? No. But take World War II, for example. I did a show on this, Pearl Harbor. Now, we were helping England, we were helping France, we were helping these countries by supplying them with planes and ammunition and so on and so forth, but we weren't involved outside of that. What led us to be involved was the bombing of Pearl Harbor by the Japanese. Prior to that, we didn't want any part of that war other than just, here's some supplies. Why? Because the American public didn't want to be involved. It wasn't until a catastrophic event boosted patriotism in the country and said, yes, now we must do this. Now, that's not to say that America bombed its own naval base to pull us into a war. And if you go back, I don't recall exactly when I did the show, probably 2 years ago, maybe longer. You can look it up, Pearl Harbor false flags. And you'll understand what I'm talking about, and how, by all accounts, we had the intelligence stating that that was going to occur. We didn't have an exact date, but we knew it was coming. And allowed it to happen, therefore pulling us into the war. Not that some people in the government didn't want it to happen. We didn't want to go to war, but the military-industrial complex forced it to happen. Fast forward through Korea, Vietnam, same situations. False flags pull us into the war. The Gulf of Tonkin, just to name one little thing there. Pull it in to the invasion, or the Gulf War, Operation Desert Storm. Pull it into that. I don't know that necessarily there was any false flags involved. We were defending an innocent country, by all accounts. But fast forward 10 years from that, 11 years from that, we need to get in here to the Middle East. We need to assert our dominance. We need to regime change. We need to do these things. The American public, we were very supportive of Operation Desert Storm. We were very supportive of that situation. We were very patriotic during those days, if you remember. And we were done. We did our job. We're done. So we needed something to happen in this country to garner the support of most of your American citizens. And we needed a terrorist attack to happen here. They tried it a few years prior to 2001 when they bombed the Twin Towers. But it didn't do the job that they were hoping it would do. Fast forward a few years past that, 2001, September 11th. Now, I'm not going to sit here and go down the conspiracy angles of CGI and all this stuff. Maybe planes hit it, maybe it didn't. I think the fact of the matter is, by all accounts, it looks like 2 planes hit those towers. But you also hear structural engineers tell you that there's no way in hell that those 2 planes took down those 2 towers, let alone building number 7. Which means that if those theories are true, then someone within our government, within the Israeli government, Mossad, CIA, all the above, organized a plot knowing that these hijackers were going to do what they did, but they had to make it a catastrophic event, not just an airplane hitting the side of the building. They had to bring those buildings down for the optics of the American people. Why do you see so many different claims about certain people who avoided that situation, who any other day of any other week would be in those buildings? But on that random Tuesday morning, I think it was a Tuesday, they weren't there. So the regime change in that theory would be the regime change in the Middle East in taking out Saddam Hussein. And to furthermore that discussion, we have this clip. This is from General Wesley Clark on that situation.
The Pentagon, right after 9/11, about 10 days after 9/11, I went through the Pentagon and I saw Secretary Rumsfeld and Deputy Secretary Wolfowitz. I went downstairs just to say hello to some of the people on the Joint Staff who used to work for me, and one of the generals called me in. He said, "Sir, you got to come in. You got to come in and talk to me a second." I said, "Well, you're too busy." He said, "No." He says, "We've made the decision. We're going to war with Iraq." This was on or about the 20th of September. I said, "We're going to war with Iraq. Why?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "I guess they don't know what else to do." So I said, "Well, did they find some information connecting Saddam to Al-Qaeda?" He said, No. He says, "There's nothing new that way. They just made the decision to go to war with Iraq." He said, "I guess it's like we don't know what to do about terrorists, but we've got a good military and we can take down governments." And he said, "I guess if the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem has to look like a nail." So I came back to see him a few weeks later, And by that time, we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, are we still going to war with Iraq? And he said, oh, it's worse than that. He said, he reached over on his desk, he picked up a piece of paper, and he said, I just got this down from upstairs, meaning the Secretary of Defense's office today, and he said, this is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran. I said, is it classified? He said, yes, sir. I said, well, don't show it to me. And I saw him a year or so ago, and I said, you remember that? He said, sir, I didn't show you that memo. I didn't show it to you.
I'm sorry, what did you say his name was?
I'm not going to give you his name.
So go through the countries again.
Well, starting with Iraq, then Syria and Lebanon, then Libya, then Somalia and Sudan, and then back to Iran.
Which brings us to today. Now, the 7 countries in 5 years, obviously, we missed that time frame, but we're in the ballpark. General Clark spilled it. PNACs. Let me get my music going here. I realize it was real quiet. PNACs hit list post 9/11 oil grabs. Tony Blair dismissed it, but the theories persist. Let's do this next commercial and we'll pause for a second. We'll be right back. Hang tight. All right, guys. In this world of surveillance, protect yourself with NordVPN. Secure your data, bypass censorship. Use promo code DTOM. Go to nordvpn.com, promo code DTOM for the deal of a century at NordVPN. 2 years, 50% off. Don't let Big Brother tread on your privacy. We'll be back in just a second. All right, so fast forward to 2026. Multipolarity rules. Trump's America First ditched PNAC's endless wars, but the echoes still remain. Iraq's failure sowed instability, boosted rivals like China. Theories say neocons overreach caused a decline, financial ruin, and lost allies. The chatter on Twitter lists 9/11 evidence tying to PNAC. Is the empire crumbling? Yes, if we keep the neocon ghost alive. So let's get one more break in real quick, guys. All right, guys, sleep like a patriot with MyPillow. Comfy, American-made pillows, sheets, comforters, slippers, the whole 9 yards. Use promo code DTOM and save big time, bigly, at mypillow.com. Don't tread on your rest. We're going to wrap this up here in just a second. All right, so PNAC and neocons might have aimed high, but hubris could topple us. Conspiracies or not, question everything, guys. What we need to look at is history. What is the one thing we're taught? That if we don't teach history, if we don't remember history, if we don't pay attention to what the hell's going on, it's doomed to repeat. And we're in a repeat phase right now. It's not Iraq, it's Iran. And when it's not Iran, it's going to be someone else. At the core of all this is one country. And it's not the United States. But that country is going to cause the United States to fall upon itself. I did a series of shows probably about 4 years ago, called Fallen Empires. I think it was a 4-part series. And I talked about how history, throughout man's existence, we've had 4 or 5 empires that's ruled this world. And I don't recall the order that I did the show in, but the Roman Empire, the Ottoman Empire, the British Empire, the American Empire. Now, subsequently, all those empires prior crumbled because essentially they got too big for their britches. We're falling into that line. We have got to fix this. The problem is we elect leaders because they say all the right things and do the bad things. Those of us that voted for Donald Trump, we voted because we didn't want new wars. We didn't want these things. I talked about this on a show a couple shows ago about how this bombing attack that occurred back in February where we started. Now, as I'm doing this show, it's still going on, but maybe by the time this airs, it'll be over. I don't know. But Trump came out and said we had to do this because we had to strike first before they struck first. And we're doing this to stop a nuclear war. And I talked about Israel's non-existent but actual nuclear capabilities. And that word on the street was that Netanyahu told Trump that if we didn't get involved, they were going to nuke Iran. Obviously, we don't know how true that is, and we will never know if that statement is true or not. And I've said this before, I'll say it again, and I'll keep on saying it. Unverified doesn't mean it's untrue. We were fed a line in 2002 about WMDs in Iraq, and that's why we went to Iraq. But we did it on the heels of 9/11 because everyone was so pissed off about what happened. When the alleged boogeyman was Osama bin Laden, not Saddam Hussein. I'm probably, while I'm on vacation, I'm going to work on a show about Saddam Hussein, Muammar Gaddafi, and some of these leaders in the Middle East, and what may be the actual cause as to why the United States and Israel is involved in these situations. And you might know where this is going. Maybe you won't. But we're going to do it anyway because why not? All right, guys. Music, where you at? There you are. Conspiracies or not, question everything. I just want to thank you guys for being here. Make sure that whatever podcast app you're listening to this on, you're following the show, you subscribe, whatever that button is. No Patreons here. We're doing this for free. If you want to help me out, if you want to help the show out, visit the sponsors we talked about during the show. If you want to spread the word, go to the DTOM Store, get you some gear, tell them where you got it from, tell them what you're listening to. Money goes to Tunnels to Towers. I don't take any of it. Reach out to me on social media. Don't Tread on America on Facebook, Instagram, True Social, on the Ticker Talker. And the best way to get a hold of me is on the Twitter X machine, DTOM Podcast 1776. Don't forget to check us on Rumble, DontTreadonMericaTV. Follow the show there. And if you're not on social media, I can understand that. Check out the website, DontTreadonMerica.com. You can go to all the different things there. And if you want to hit me up and ask me any questions and you're not on social media, you can email me, DonQ at Don't Tread on America. Until next time, guys, observe, report. Unverified doesn't mean untrue. I'll talk to you guys in a few more days. Have a great day, and peace. All right.